of steam to move itself and pull the train. Water is heated in a boiler to create high pressure steam, which is then fed into cylinders to push pistons. These pistons are connected to the driving wheels, making them turn and propel the train forward. Invented in the early 1800s, these engines were the dominant form of rail transport for over a century, fueling the Industrial Revolution and expanding trade and travel. They were eventually replaced by more efficient diesel and electric locomotives, but many are still preserved and run on heritage railways today. How y'all folks doing this fine day? It's Gator here at the cable company. I'm so glad you stopped in to see me today. Today we're going over the steam locomotive. It is a locomotive that provides the force to move itself and other vehicles by means of expansion of steam. It is fueled by burning combustible materials, usually coal, oil, or rarely wood, to heat water in the locomotive's boiler, to the point where it becomes gaseous and its volume increases 1,700 times. Functionally, it is a steam engine on wheels. In most locomotives, the steam is emitted alternately to each end of the cylinders, in which pistons are mechanically connected to the locomotive's main wheel. Like this right here, you see this? And this near my crude drawing. Fuel and water supplies are usually carried with the locomotive, either on the locomotive itself or in a tender coupled to it. Variations in this general design include electrically powered boilers, turbines in place of pistons, and using steam generated externally. Steam locomotives were first developed in the United Kingdom during the early 19th century and used for railway transport until the middle of the 20th century. Richard Trevithick built the first steam locomotive known to have hauled a load over a distance at Penny Dern in 1804. Although it produced an earlier locomotive for trial at Coal-Brooksdale in 1802, Salamanca, built in 1812 by Matthew Murray for the Middletown Railway, was the first commercially successful steam locomotive. Locomotion number 1, built by George Stephenson and his son Robert's company, Robert Stephenson and Company, was the first steam locomotive to haul passengers on a public railway. The Stockton and Darlington Railway in 1825. Rapid development ensued. In 1830, George Stephenson opened the first public intercity railway, the Liverpool and Manchester Railway. After the success of Rocket at the 1829 Rain Hill Trails, had proved that steam locomotives could perform such duties. Robert Stephenson and Company was the preeminent builder of steam locomotives in the first decades of steam for railways in the United Kingdom, the United States, and much of Europe. Toward the end of the steam era, a long-standing British emphasis on speed culminated in a record, still unbroken, of 126 miles per hour by Elner Class A4 4468 Mollard. However, there are long-standing claims that the Pennsylvania Railroad Class S1 achieved speeds upwards to 150 miles per hour, though this was never officially proven. In the United States, larger loading gauges allowed the development of very large heavy locomotives, such as the Union Pacific Big Boy, which weighs 540 long tons, 550 T, and 600 short tons. It has a tractive effort of 135,375 pounds, force 602,180 neutrons. Beginning in the early 1900s, steam locomotives were gradually superseded by electric and diesel locomotives, with railways fully converting to electric and diesel power beginning in the late 1930s. The majority of the steam locomotives were retired from regular service by the 1980s, although several continue to run on tourist and heritage lines. Well, there you go. There's a little brief history. This is called Locomotion number 1, if you don't see that right there. This is my crude drawing. I appreciate everybody that stopped in to see me. There's a little bit about the steam engines. I think it's a wonderful subject. You know anybody got one of these? That'd be cool, wouldn't you? Huh? Okay, I appreciate y'all, man. Live long and prosper. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.